There's all sorts of little tips and tricks that we'd like to share because, again, it's this symbiotic relationship. I want to be working with somebody for many years. And if I can help them, it's going to help both of us.
So here's what I want my listeners to just go back about 45 seconds and replay, because James used a term that really shows his mindset. He says, we're helping each other grow. And to me, James, that is such an important view of the world. In other words, we're not competitors. We don't feel we're competitors with anybody. We're those at the top are collaborating a ton. And I think when you enter a business relationship with another, whether it's a vendor or in your case, referral partners, probably both, also vendors, and your attitude is, and I'm going to help you grow and you're going to help me grow.
Welcome to the Renegade Lawyer Podcast, the show where we ask the questions, why aren't more lawyers living flourishing lives and inspiring others? And can you really get wealthy while doing only the work you love with people you like? Many lawyers are. Get ready to hear from your host, Ben Glass, the founder of the law firm Ben Glass Law in Fairfax, Virginia, and Great Legal Marketing, an organization that helps good people succeed by coaching, inspiring, and supporting law firm owners. Join us for today's conversation.
This is Ben Glass. This is the Renegade Lawyer Podcast, where I get to interview people inside and outside the legal profession who are making a ding on the universe. Today, very interesting guest, James Grant. James is an attorney. The firm is Georgia Trial Attorneys at Kirchen and Grant down in, obviously, Georgia. We'll talk about that. But it's a completely different law practice than what 99% of lawyers are running, I think. And James, really the first one of my guests who's running something non-traditional. You're in the personal injury space for sure, but a completely different way of presenting yourself to the world. So I want to talk about that today. So welcome. Thanks for taking some time out.
Thanks, Ben. Yeah, we're super excited to have you today, and welcome to the home gym basement for today.
Well, I was going to say, so if you're listening to this on the audio of the podcast, James he came on, he logged in, and I'm like, this is awesome because he's at his home gym. It is outfitted with, and James is you do strongman, I think you said.
Yeah.
And it's outfitted with a ton of equipment in the background. And he was like, oh, should I change it to my office background? Hell no. No, this is awesome. This is what life is supposed to be about, which is here we are at noon. You've just come off of a workout out of your home gym, and you and I are going to talk about building an interesting practice. So tell us a little bit about your background, because you didn't start either weightlifting or the law yesterday. How'd you get to where you are? In both.
Yeah, no, it's been one of those roads where it's taken probably all the twists and turns that it could have taken to get us to where we are today. And we've by no means arrived. I was an engineer at Georgia Tech when this all started. And really on a whim, I decided probably the last semester and a half before I graduated, hey, let's try law school. Then I was like, I want to do patent law because that'll be great with engineering. Nope, that didn't work out. That wasn't entertaining or fun. Sorry to all the patent lawyers. Y'all are a special breed of people, and I love you, but not for me. And then I went to law school. I got some trial experience under that Third Year Practice Act, and I was like, this is a whole bunch of fun. It's performance. And I was a prosecutor for about 18 months, tried a whole bunch of cases, and then was like, all right, it's time to go work in the real world. So I got a job at a firm that did door law. You walk in the door, they're going to handle the case. And it was good. It was bad. I met my business partner. He started 2 weeks before me at that same firm. And about 3 months in, we just looked at each other and we're like, are you ready to do this thing? And we saved up for about a year. And we were just like a lot of lawyers that have no business sense, have no plan, just say, hey, we're going to be great lawyers and do great things and everything's going to be great. And it ends up that's not actually how business works. But we were able to put a lot of pieces together, get a lot of coaching, get a lot of training, get a lot of mentors. And that's really what's helped propel us to the place where we are today, to your point of we're trying to challenge and revolutionize the traditional practice of law from a personal injury standpoint.
So for my listeners who aren't in law school, who are maybe in college trying to figure out what am I going to do? No, you didn't need to have your whole plan formulated when you were 17, like your mom and dad maybe might have told you that this was true. Absolutely not true. I talk to so many people, James, who are either doing things they never studied in college or graduate school, or they just did something on a whim. I had a client once, and she was in like stadium lighting, like concert stadium lighting. I'm like, how'd you get to that gig? I had a space on my college schedule. I had an elective, and it was all theater lighting. And I took one class, and I was turned on forever. And I think she was on tour with Madonna or somebody, which maybe ages me.
It doesn't matter necessarily where you start. It really matters where you end.
Yeah, exactly. And again, the typical pattern here coming out of law school. So a lot of young lawyers who want to be trial lawyers go either into a prosecutor's office. We're going to get experience being in front of judges, in front of juries, and just handling a lot of stuff. Many go into insurance defense firms. Again, same thing. If you're in a smaller insurance defense firm, you get opportunity, take depositions, do trials, be in front of a lot of people, try cases with no prep because you have too many cases.
Been there.
Yeah, but then the entrepreneurial seizure, which is like this jam at the door law firm, everything that walks in the door, this jam isn't really making me happy. Gee, maybe we can go build something else. And so walk me through a little bit of the steps. So you and your to-be partner, we're in the same firm, not totally happy with what you were seeing, figuring out somehow, like, where did that come from? Somehow there's got to be something better.
Yeah, it was more of one of those things where you just sit there and you realize when we started with that firm, they probably had 120 cases. And then by the time that we had left, they had grown to probably 600 cases in the firm. So Mark and I, we weren't single-handedly responsible for it. Obviously, there was a lot that was going on, but like we helped build a significant portion of that business to what it was. And we're like, if we can do this for somebody else, we can sure do this from ourselves. And then we also gain the control of being able to do it your way with your flair and be able to help people the way you want to and focus on what you want to do. And it just, all the pieces really fit together. We didn't necessarily know what we wanted or how we wanted to do it. We just knew that we wanted to try it ourselves. And we just took that leap of faith.
So a lot of my listeners are in firms where they're working for somebody else. And one of the big questions is, how do I build cases? How do I even build my personal brand within a firm? What are some of the things that you and Mark did inside this other firm to really, and again, we recognize you guys weren't the only reason you said that, but what were you doing as employees of the firm to make the firm better?
To answer one of your questions of how we were planning on getting new cases when we started this business, we had no clue. We had no plan. We didn't even know what a business plan was. We were just like, it's going to work. It's going to be great. Luckily, it worked out that way. But to your listeners that are listening, that are considering this, work on a plan first. Build a business plan. Decide what your market is, what your clients are, how you're going to acquire them, and what pieces you're going to put in place to measure all that. Because if you do that, it's going to be so much easier as opposed to having to fail over and over again on the way to success.
What were you guys doing, though, inside this other firm to help it grow? Because a lot of lawyers feel like, I don't really have the capacity, the knowledge, or the desire to grow that, and yet you help them go from a couple hundred cases to maybe 4 times that.
Some of it is you have to be able to see what something can be. I think that's, in at least my brain, like my engineering mind, I see something and I say, I know this can be scalable. I know this can turn into something else. We just have to, add more fuel or, whatever the metric is, there's just an opportunity. I don't necessarily know how to quantify that, but it's just having an eye for, okay, this has opportunity. And if we add more cases here, or if we add more referral partners here, or if we focus on this particular demographic, we have an opportunity. And it was just more of a combination of that. In addition to my business partner, Mark, I myself am a nerd. I went to Georgia Tech. I get it. He's the super nerd of all the nerds.
Engineer at Georgia Tech. You are a nerd.
Yeah, but Mark is like the nerd of all the nerds.
All right.
And he was able to build so many systems, at least in the early stage, that helped us move cases faster, which is something that we then adopted to our firm and have really exploded into. That the faster you're able to deliver, the more cases you get. It's its own form of marketing because speed is so valuable.
How old is your firm now?
So we started in 2015. January of 2015 was when we started the firm. So what is that? 8 years?
8 years in. And you said when we took the entrepreneurial seizure, we didn't have a plan. We didn't really know. We just knew it would be successful. We would figure it out. How different does it look today from it looked, if I was talking to you at 12 months in 2016, how different is it?
Vastly different. In those early days, it's one of the deals of everything is like pants on fire. Because again, we didn't have a plan, we didn't have systems, we didn't understand the value of coaching and training and templates and processes and procedures and all those things. So we were just literally hopping from one fire to the next. You're working 80, 90 hours a week. You're an indentured servant to your law firm as opposed to starting a law firm that actually works for you. And it was an entirely different world. Mark and I were intimately involved in the cases, handling every single case. Whereas now we have a team of pods that the lawyer, the paralegal, the case manager, they're handling their cases. We're now focused on being the visionaries for where the firm is going to be in the future, as opposed to doing the day-to-day work.
Were you a personal injury firm company? Is that what you and Mark, that was the vision? We're going to grow a PI firm, or was it more like the door law firm?
So because we didn't necessarily know what we were doing, we adapted what we had learned. So we were a semi-door law. We did personal injury, family law, and criminal defense.
Okay.
But very soon after we started, probably 6 or 8 months in, we at least realized, hey, we have to pick something. If you dabble in everything, you're an expert in nothing. So we realized that early on. We probably didn't fully adapt it to probably a year and a half in, but we realized that, number one, we were really good at personal injury. We enjoyed it. We were able to help a lot of people and do a lot of good. And number one, I just have a personal axe to grind with these greedy insurance companies of effectively holding clients' money hostage for their personal profits and their shareholders. So all of those things just really work together where we saw a good opportunity with the field of personal injury. And that's where we really put our, stock in.
You've mentioned a couple of times the value of coaching. And before we went live, you told me that you either have been or maybe are still with my friend Arjan Robbins and How to Manage a Small Law Firm. So what was the turn to the first coaching or learning for you and Mark as you went from a very typical 3 practice areas, PI, family law, criminal defense? That's a very typical format for young lawyers starting a law firm. But then you started seeking, or coaching came to you. So talk to us a little bit about the things that you and Mark have found valuable, the programs, the names, the books, because our job here is to help lawyers find great mentors, coaches, systems, people they can look towards to go, hey, I'd like to build something like that.
Yeah, we grew every year for the first 3 years. We were probably averaging about 35% growth. So we were well exceeding the industry standards across the board. And that's typical for the first couple of years of a business like that. But again, it was all about us. When we were there, the firm was working. If we wanted to take a vacation, which really didn't happen, the firm didn't work. So we realized that something had to change. And that brought us to October of 2018. And we found out about how to manage a small law firm. There's several different models of coaching that are out there. Some work for some people, some work for others. And it's just a matter of finding what fits you. The great thing that we really liked about How to Manage is it wasn't follow these 47 steps to run a successful practice. It was more of, okay, what are your personal, professional, financial goals based on objective metrics? Once we know that, let's build you a firm that gets you there. And we jumped all in. We signed the dotted line and have been with them ever since. And the first year sucked. I have to be honest. If you're going to adopt coaching into your business, it's going to be super difficult just because you have to learn how to work on your business while you're working in your business. But as long as you think of it as a future investment in yourself, you're going to just reap the dividends and the profits so much more down the line.
So most of the lawyers who come to us, to Great Legal Marketing, Arjan and I have known each other for almost 20 years. We grew up in the Dan Kennedy world together. But you're right, that when you go from I'm running a firm and it's running me, and I don't really know anything about business because I don't even know what to ask, to having coaching or a coaching program, our experience is like the first 12, 18 months, there's just so many things that you now realize that you are naked and there's so many things that you're not doing correctly. Even if the firm is, quote, good and you're 35% year-over-year growth, like that's awesome. Just on your own hustle, your own knowledge, your own enthusiasm for life and disenthusiasm for the insurance industry. But yeah, and a lot of people, honestly, James, they give up. Like they don't want to let the coach see like how crappy it actually is behind the curtain. And then and even lawyers are shy about sharing with a cohort group, here's my problem. I can't figure this out on my own. Has anyone dealt with this before? And of course, in a room that's reasonably put together, there's always somebody there who's a little bit farther along or a lot farther along that path, who's gone over the same railroad tracks as you have. So and that was in 2018, what were in that first year, you said it was really hard. So more specifically, what did you and Mark find to be really hard?
Nothing about coaching in and of itself is difficult. And in some essence, we all understand what we need to do, but it's the application of it. It's the personal development on yourself of learning to take on the entrepreneurial mindset, to view situations a certain way, and then to deal with those situations as a true entrepreneur would and not react emotionally, to just take a true objective metric perspective of it. And then the time commitment as well. You have to be able to invest the time. So especially for those that have family that are considering coaching, this is not a decision you make by yourself.
Right.
You have to get the buy-in of your family to be like, listen, I may work 50 hours a week, but guess what? I'm going to be working 70 hours a week for the next little while. But just understand that this is for the goal of me working 20 hours a week. So it's all in the way you look at it, and also the buy-in of the support system that you have around you, just because it really is a lot of time. You're doing a lot of things, whether it's creating policies or templates or procedures, or really actually focusing on hiring and making sure that you have scorecards, job descriptions, KPIs, and all those things before you even post the job, to make sure that you're hiring the right people the right way. And it's a lot you're taking on. It's like drinking from a fire hose. And so sometimes you have to go back, revisit, review, go over, re-implement it. And it's really just all about time for the most part.
Adding to all of that, which is then typically in a good coaching program, traveling, maybe to quarterly meetings of several days, so now you're out of house, door to door. If it's meetings 2 days, you're door to door 4 days away typically. And challenge, but it's 100% worth it. If anyone is listening to this and you're like, all right, I got my practice, it's pretty good, but I cannot enthusiastically answer these two questions, like, do I like going to work and do I like going home? Then there's a space for coaching. And you're right, the biggest change that takes place is what goes on really in between your ears, how you view the world, I think, and then how you view the business, separating out the profession of legal and the business of creating something that will actually serve the world in a great way, but serve me and serve my family first. So give us, because before we went live, looked at your website, and I was expecting to find a typical personal injury, Georgia, and again, it's a very competitive space, like a lot of lawyers, a lot of billboards, a lot of TV advertising, Georgia. I was expecting to find a very typical personal injury website, and I did. It's totally different, because your target is not the consumer.
Hey guys, this is Ben. If you like what you've been hearing on this podcast, not just the marketing and practice building strategies, but the philosophy of the art of living your best life parts, you should know that my son Brian and I have built a tribe of like-minded lawyers who are living lives of their own design and creating tremendous value for the world within the structure of a law practice. We invite you to join us at the only membership organization for entrepreneurial lawyers that is run by 2 full-time practicing attorneys. Check us out at greatlegalmarketing.com.
Talk to us and share with our listeners what kind of firm you are running today.
So through the evolution of all the coaching that we've been through, one thing that we're also implementing is scaling up with Vern Harnish. And one of the big factors that you have to decide as a business is what is your unique value proposition? What is it that you're selling or delivering that's, to your words a few minutes ago, what are you going to do that's going to change the world? What's your passion? What's your purpose? What's going to, number one, motivate you, motivate your team, and then also motivate your customers or clients to then want to hire you and retain you? And we realized that there was and also this is also through some one-on-one coaching with our John Robbins at How to Manage, we realized that there was a unique opportunity within the personal injury space. Generally, most personal injury firms, for the most part, are going to try to do two things well. Maybe not great, maybe not excellent, but they're just going to be okay at that. And those two things are pre-litigation and litigation. It's easy. I understand it, why so many would do it. But when you really break down and look at the numbers, the staff that you need to run a pre-litigation department is not the staff that you need to run a litigation department. Yeah. And vice versa. It's like football and baseball. I can be the greatest professional pitcher out there in MLB. But if you throw a football in my hand and tell me to go be the starting quarterback for the Falcons, that's not going to happen. And the staff that you need for a litigation law firm, they're more expensive. Their training is more expensive. The cost of running them and managing them is more expensive. But then also so many firms use that litigation staff to then do pre-litigation cases. And if you're doing that from just an objective metric standpoint of financial controls, you're overpaying for their services. And again, with most personal injury attorneys, they're actually really good at marketing and sales. They know how to acquire new clients and get new cases and get clients into treatment. And in the Atlanta metro market, for the most part, not talking about the outlier cases, but the average attorney fee on a standard case in the metro area is going to be $10,000 on average, outside of the big seven-figure cases.
Sure.
So if you look at that, if you're spending 40, 50, 60% of your time in litigation, my question to other attorneys is, if you had that time back, less overhead, more money to then go dump into your marketing, how many more cases could you get? And we found an opportunity to serve as an outsourced litigation department for other personal injury law firms and only do that, not actually do pre-litigation marketing. So now we don't compete with our partners. We're not driving up their cost of acquisition. We're actually complementing them and growing together so that they can focus on what they're great at. We can focus what we're great at, and everybody gets the best service, and the clients actually do better. Insurance settlements and verdicts go up. Everybody wins, at least with what we've seen with our model.
So you have a cohort of lawyer referral partners who are doing the pre-lit, trying to get cases resolved. And when they can't get them resolved and they have to go into litigation, you describe yourself, the outsourced litigation department.
Yep.
So do you then, are all of them sending you the case file in as good in a very standard condition? Good. And so are you teaching them that? Or do you find case files that are, some are like, this firm doesn't do a very good job even at pre-lit? Or this firm is doing a great job at setting me up, James, for success?
Yeah, so there's two parts to that. We have, since implementing this, we've grown to the point now where we have 22 law firms across the Southeast that are working with us, and we're referral partners and helping each other grow. And even though to some it's a small number, to some it's a large number, but even though we've got 22 law firms, every single law firm is different. There's really no consistency amongst the firms as far as how they name their files, what their folder structure is, what documents are important to them, how their demands look, and what they focus on as their important viewpoints and selling points. So it's really, we have a whole department for our onboarding process because we tear everything down. We rebuild it the way that our team understands. So that way it fits into our case management system. So that way it's easier to run as opposed to having to adopt naming conventions and foldering structures. And this is important, this is not important for every firm. It's just we implement our system, our way. But then to your question, it gives us the opportunity to say, hey, in litigation, this is something that's actually really important to us, and it would really help us. I think it could also really help you if you implemented this, if you actually got witness statements, if you actually went to and talked with your clients' family members, their friends, had them go do it. Maybe just going through Facebook and finding old pictures and videos of what they were doing before the accident and how that has changed since. There's just so many little things where it's like, have you considered doing this? Or have you considered doing that? There's all sorts of little tips and tricks that we'd like to share because, again, it's this symbiotic relationship. I want to be working with somebody for many years. And if I can help them, it's going to help both of us.
So here's what I want my listeners to just go back about 45 seconds and replay because James used a term that really shows his mindset. He says, we're helping each other grow. And to me, James, that is such an important view of the world. In other words, we're not competitors. We don't feel we're competitors with anybody. We're those at the top are collaborating a ton. And I think when you enter a business relationship with another, whether it's a vendor or in your case, referral partners, probably both, also vendors, and your attitude is, and I'm going to help you grow and you're going to help me grow. There is no way that either party can lose with that. So I want people to, we give them a lot of good strategies, tips, very discreet things to do. But that mindset is the most important thing I think about life and about living in our world and taking advantage of all the opportunities that America gives us. But it starts there. And sadly, so many lawyers, I think, are bad at this because they go to law school, not like you. They go with a plan and they're all issue spotters and they took great tests and they don't have to be issue spotters. And you're looking for opportunity. How do I help you grow? So that's very cool. So talk to us a little bit. So how is your team set up? And a lot of lawyers are using out-of-country staff to some extent. I don't know if you are or not, but it seems that when a case file does come to you, there is a lot of ministerial rebranding, renaming conventions that go on. So how does it actually happen? And what does the team look like today?
Yeah, so we are probably the number one advocate for virtual assistants across the board and just virtual hiring, period. When you open yourself up to a global pool of candidates, the opportunity is nearly endless because COVID really changed everything. Now people can work from home. Most of us work from home. For us, we've got a large 3,000 square foot office that one person goes to 4 days a week, and that's our receptionist to do our mail. But really everybody else works from home. We have our attorneys, we have our paralegals, we have our case managers, we have our intake team, our settlement team, our records team. We have teams all across the US and all across the world. And the biggest perspective and mindset shift that we had to adopt was realizing, what do you actually need a law license to do?
Yes.
You only need a law license to do very few things.
100%. Exactly right. Yes.
Number one, you've got to be able to give legal advice. You need a law license for that. You need a law license to sign documents, but that's really not a thing anymore because everything's e-file, so you're not really signing documents. So now we're back to one. Then the other one is you have to be able to argue in court, attend depositions, attend trials. Like, you can't have a paralegal do that, so you actually have to do that. And then the other is you're supervising other lawyers, but that's only a small fraction of managing partners across the country. So really, you don't need a law license to do much. What does that tell you? Everything else is administrative in nature and can be delegated to the lowest paid, most competent employee that you can find. So much of our process is data entry. We're not going to pay somebody $30 an hour to enter data or to sit on hold with the hospital ER billing specialist for 45 minutes only to find out that it got sold off to a collections company and now we got to be on hold for an hour and a half with them. You're overpaying for those tasks, and most of these tasks are routine. So we have a large team in Mexico. We have people all across the US that work with us, and it is a very great symbiotic relationship because they're getting something out of it, we're getting something out of it, and we're able to deliver a higher quality of service faster to our clients, which again, speed is everything, especially in the personal injury space.
So are you and your partner, are you working directly with the team in Mexico, or is there a company conduit who is Get Staffed Up is a company in the space? How are you guys doing that?
So we actually just go direct to consumer. There's wonderful benefits to Get Staffed Up. We've used them in the past. I love Brett. He's built a wonderful system. And especially if you're getting started in it, I think you should start with him. Absolutely no questions asked, because he really makes it easy. And he pre-vets, pre-trains people so that can at least accept your training. Where we are now as far as scaling, we can just go direct to consumer as far as for hiring. One of the great things when you go to other countries is their in those other countries, they're getting something out of this. So what does that mean?
Yeah.
If they find a good job, they're going to tell other people about it. So all of a sudden now we have our current employees are effectively our sales team. So that way we don't necessarily have to go to job boards anymore. We just ask them, hey, do you know somebody? But by the way, you're on the hook for whoever you bring in. So they're going to bring high quality people that they know and trust. And again, it just perpetuates the cycle of bringing on people that fit the culture, fit the standard, and are able to deliver.
Yeah, so my friend Bill Biggs, who does a lot of consulting and law firm culture for some of the biggest personal injury firms in the country, it's exactly that model. It's getting the current team involved in the process of, if not hiring, at least vetting the new employees and voting, yes, this person will make us better. Because when they have that involvement and the new person now comes into the organization, the current team is going to work to make sure that they are not embarrassed because they let somebody in the door who's not actually making the company better. So that's brilliant. Talk to me a little bit so a lot of lawyers who would look at your firm and look at these relationships, they would ask and wonder, what about the client? Like, how does the client has, maybe seen a billboard or a TV ad, gone to a law firm A, weren't able to resolve their case. Now the case is being referred to you, transferred to you. Is that a challenge for you? Like explaining this deal, like why I'm the new lawyer, why I'm the litigation lawyer, or not? It says it's like a belief a fear that lawyers have is not really real.
At first it was because we didn't really understand our business model. But the more we understood that we're in the business of helping people, we're helping law firms and law firm owners, and we're helping their clients, then we realized that it's not this team A and team B thing. It's not that your first lawyer just wasn't good enough, so you had to come to us for us to rescue. Now, if you put yourself in the rescuer perspective and you're making your client out to be a victim, that's never going to work. That's not a dynamic that you need to begin a relationship with. So it's more of just helping the clients realize is your law firm that you started with, they are fantastic at this phase. They are the best firm that you need for this pre-litigation space. And I am so glad that you went with them. But now that your case is in this next phase, it's okay. You want to have a specialist. You don't want your family doctor operating on you. You want your family doctor to refer you to a neurosurgeon. That's just the same dynamic that we have. You started off with the specialist in pre-litigation. We're just the specialist that's going to litigate the case and finish it. But at the end of the day, you're still the client of that firm. You're not really our client, because the only reason we had this relationship is because of your prior firm. And it also helps the dynamic too for when the client comes back in 6 months with another accident and they call us, I'm sorry, you actually need to go back to John, or you need to go back to Jill, because that's the law firm that you started with. You wouldn't know about us if it weren't for them. So go back to them.
Yeah, so I noticed that there's a lot, and we'll link the website in the show notes, and you'll talk about the website here in a couple of minutes. But I noticed there's a lot of copy on there reassuring the law firms that refer you cases that this is a partnership, that these clients are their clients, not yours. And so if somebody does, because I imagine your site is SEO sensitive. The name of it is like Georgia Trial Lawyers, right? Georgia Trial Attorney. So do you get consumers who don't have a relationship with you, but somehow they heard about you, calling you directly? And if so, then what do you do with those cases?
Yeah, we get calls all the time. Do we get a high volume of calls that are actual cases? No. Now, the way this dynamic works is, number one, our commitment is to all of our partners that under no circumstances are we going to do any buses, billboards, TV, radio, digital ads. We're not doing any of that stuff. We're not spending any money on marketing to go after consumers. Because again, if we're spending money in that space, we're going to drive up their cost of acquisition. To your point, do we have a website that people can find? Absolutely. And if that happens, we have one person in our department that if we can't send it out, because we try to send stuff out, because again, it conflicts with our message. Here's a dynamic that does happen on occasion. Let's say you send us a case. We work the case. The client comes back in a year. Jimmy, I was in an accident. Can you handle it? No, go back to Ben. Go back to Ben. 70, 80% of the time, they're always going to go back because they're going to be like, okay, I get it. Makes sense. that 20 or 30% of the time, they were like, we really want you to handle the case. We have a conversation with them. Same thing with clients that call us. This is not our specialty. Just understand and know that we are not pre-litigation specialists. But if you want to come with us, you can. We'll still handle the case. We have one person in a pre-lit department, so to speak. But the way that works, when that case settles, we still send you, Ben, a referral fee because it's your case. It's not our case. And that way, and again, it still is consistent with our message and our commitment to not be competition, but partners.
My friend John Fisher up in New York, I don't know if John, but he's a very similar model. He's a plaintiff's medical malpractice attorney. All of his marketing is to plaintiff's personal injury law firms that don't do med mal cases because he'd rather spend time, energy, and money talking to a firm that can send him 5 cases in a year than to individuals. So talk to us, but the referral principles are universal. So talk to us a little bit about, because look, every lawyer, a traditional law firm needs referrals from other lawyers. And oftentimes we're getting referrals from Social Security, disability lawyers, from the family lawyers. What are you doing to help create a new relationship? I think you said you have 22 or 23 firms that are sending you cases across the Southeast. So not just Atlanta, it sounds like, too, or not just Georgia. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. All across the really Alabama, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina.
For Georgia work?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So what are you doing? Are you like identifying, here's a firm that's a potential prospect for us, for our law firm, and now I need to get into their world and at least make an introduction? Are you doing that type of work? So that's one topic I want to talk about. And then the other topic is keeping that relationship. It's one thing to just be sending checks, back and forth. That's cool. But I imagine you're doing other things too, because that's what entrepreneurs do. So first topic, adding a new firm to your tribe. What sort of outreaches are you doing? How are they finding them?
Yeah. So the answer to both is the same, is when you're dealing with this B2B model, the marketing and sales, everything is entirely different because I'm dealing with probably a couple thousand prospects across the Southeast, maybe. Whereas on the consumer side, you're talking millions of people. Yeah. So my pool of potential candidates is very small, which requires a true business development skill. And it's building relationships. First, we have to identify who those prospects are and then try to start building relationships with other lawyers. You do business with people that you know and trust. Generally, that's not something that's developed super quickly, but at the same time, if you deliver and show that you can be trusted, then the others can follow as well. And with that, it's a lot of, I go to breakfast, I go to lunch with a lot of lawyers, I go to ball games, I play golf. It's trying to show them who you are as a person so that they can then trust in you and know that if I deliver my client to Jimmy and his firm, that they're going to be taken care of well. And if and when something goes wrong, they can also handle it as well, because I know I can have a frank conversation of, okay, this went wrong. What can we do to fix it? And so, business development is a big part of it. We do a lot of, cold calls, cold emails, trying to just get meetings with other lawyers. We have a portion of our website where we give away a lot of our templates. We're building that every week. And it's more of we want to share the resources that we have, not to say that we're the best on the planet, but we think we've got some pretty good stuff because we've been doing it for a while and we perfect things as we go. And the mantra is, if we're willing to give this away for free, just imagine what it's like when you work with us and we're using it ourselves.
That's an Alex Hormozy line. I don't know if you listen to Alex. Do you know who he is?
Yep.
Yeah, of course you do. Jim guy. No, that's just, it's awesome. And again, it really goes back to this mindset you have of, hey, I've got certain gifts and talents. I'm going to share those with you. They're probably going to make you better if you pay attention to me. And then when you have a problem that needs to be solved that I can solve, I send it. And here's the problems that I solve. And I don't solve divorces and I don't solve bankruptcies. You need a case litigated. You need a personal injury case litigated in the state of Georgia. What do you all still find challenging? Or here we are, it's the summer, it's August of 2023. What sort of challenges are you and the firm working on?
The biggest challenge is adopting new technology. We love technology. We're very big into automation and AI. It changes so fast and the learning curve is so steep. And then you think you have one thing figured out and then Microsoft launches a new platform which is great. But now we're scrambling to learn, okay, or how do we learn Copilot? How are we going to implement this to make, things better, faster, more efficient, and stronger? So it's a flood of, there's so much to do right now because there's so many other opportunities. It's one of the deals of once you adopt this entrepreneurial mindset, you're like, ooh, there's a problem. Ooh, there's a problem. Ooh, there's an opportunity. Oh, I can fix this. Yes. So it's really trying to condense it down of like, all right, this is actually what we're going to focus on for the next 90 days. These are the 3 things. These are the 3 objectives. Everything else just gets put in our OneNote and we'll get to it when we get to the next 90 days.
Are you running EOS? Because that's
so we're doing scaling up, which is a form. It's similar to EOS and traction, but it's more, really for like exponential growth.
And I was going to ask you, what's the business rhythm of meetings? You alluded to it a little bit between you and your partner. I don't know who else you may have on a leadership team. How often are you all formally sitting down to work on the business?
Right now, we're in a 12-week crash course with scaling up. So every week, our leadership team, we're getting together because it's very similar to when we started with how to manage our coach. Is you're getting just the fire hose sprayed at you and you're trying to drink up every bit that you can. And those courses and classes are good, but there's still a lot of homework that's got to be done in between. So there's lots of meetings, lots of strategy, lots of strategic thinking about, all right, what are we going to accomplish and what do we want to implement and what do we want to build and how do we think that's going to work and what pieces are we putting in place so when that does or doesn't happen, we can adjust and adapt.
Yeah. If we're talking 3 years from now, what do you think the firm looks like? Size, geography? I don't know if you have plans to go outside of Georgia.
Yeah. So our initial plan is to go into South Carolina first. Just we see a lot of opportunity there. But as far as revenue, we're hoping that our plans will be 10 million as far as where the firm will be in the next 3 years. We've also got a couple other businesses that we're going to be launching during that time as well.
Of course you do. Of course you do.
Once you get the bug, this is a thing. I think this is a marketable asset or skill or service. So,
are they law-related? Are they law-related businesses?
Yeah, they're all within, at least for right now, the legal personal injury space.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Talk to me about the last couple of minutes. As we're recording this, you're in your home garage/gym. You do strongman. You look fit. Talk to me about your personal habits. I followed you around for a week or two. What would I see you doing outside of all of the entrepreneurial problem solving and challenge solving?
It really goes back to what are your goals? I think with everything, you have to have a goal. If you don't have a goal, you're just meandering around and maybe I'll get to it or maybe I won't. And for instance, when I decided to start working out after my daughter turned 1, I've got 2 kids. Once she turned 1, I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. If I'm going to start working out, I need a goal. In 12 months, I want to do a strongman. I don't know why I picked it, but I just picked a goal. I thought it was a crazy goal. Last October was my first strongman. I've done 2 since, and I've got another one coming up in October. And once you have goals, you're able to establish a routine. Yeah. So then my workouts, that is a priority. They're going to happen. My diet, I want to gain weight, not like most people. So how much am I eating? What am I tracking to make sure that I get to the weight that I want to be? When it comes to sleeping, am I actually prioritizing that I get the sleep that I need? Because everyone needs it, regardless of where you are. So making sure that you're sleeping, making sure that in my relationship with my wife, am I prioritizing that relationship first and foremost? Is that a relationship where we're still having time for date nights? It's not just us and the kids, but it's us together.
And how old are the girls? How old are the kids?
So my youngest will be 3 next month, my daughter, and then my oldest is 5.
Awesome. Yeah, there's nothing like putting an event like a strongman event or a marathon or something like in the calendar. Even if you're at the beginning of your fitness journey, like having an event in the calendar says to the world, I have set a goal. I am going to not embarrass myself too much at that event. That's how I ran my first marathon and putting a referee high school soccer games and youth soccer, like putting games in the calendar.
Well, yeah, the simple things of planning out your year. It's a lot of people shy away from that, but go ahead and plan out your year. Plan out when you want your vacations to be and when you're going to strategize and work on your firm and your business, and just put those dates down so you make sure that they happen.
Well, and really important, because when you do that, if you find out that it doesn't all fit, you have to change something, because if it doesn't fit when you're planning it 12 and 15 months in advance, it sure as hell isn't going to fit when it's coming at you by random acts, right? So good for you. All right. So if people want to see this website that we have talked about and see a little bit of how you do market to other law firms, where do they go?
So we have two URLs. Some people like the easy one. Some people like the harder one. We have a toll-free number, which is also our URL. We also have our standard URL, which is the name of our firm, Georgia Trial Attorneys at Kirchen and Grant. So that's GTAKG.com. Or if you want our toll-free number, 833-4THEWIN.com. They both go to the same place, but everybody likes a different flair on it.
We'll put a hyperlink in the show notes to make sure we'll make it easy for people to go there. Look, James, this has been awesome. We wish you all the luck. It is good to talk to people who are good lawyers, good people, but who are just thinking about the whole profession and the running of the business better and differently. And in a win, like I'm just big on if we all engage in win relationships, then the world's going to be great. So, my friend, thanks for taking some time with us today.
No, thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it. We've had a good time.
If you like what you just heard on the Renegade Lawyer Podcast, you may be a perfect fit for the great legal marketing community. Law firm owners across the country are becoming heroes to their families and icons in their communities. They've gone renegade by rejecting the status quo of the legal profession so they can deliver high-quality legal services coupled with top-notch customer service to clients who pay, stay, and refer. Learn more at greatlegalmarketing.com. That's greatlegalmarketing.com.